Yo, dudes, B-Man from Verdicks. I got Denny and Nick here. I was just talking to them about some things that some people think are good for them, but turn out to be quite the opposite. Things like margarine over butter. It's one of those I can think of. And one that comes to mind that's really been bugging me lately is work meetings. People think that they're set up to be productive and create a cohesive environment where you can share ideas and solve problems. But I think the work meetings are just a big waste of time. Um, Meetings are far from the best way to get everybody on the same page. And when you look at some of the most successful people in our universe, Jeff Bezos, Cuban, Elon Musk, all of those guys purposely avoid meetings. And there's got to be something to that.
Yeah. Like for me, I feel like 90% of everything that's discussed in a meeting could probably be accomplished with a one-on-one conversation, an email, if you guys use Slack, like a Slacked chat room where you can bounce ideas back and forth and stuff like that. Like my biggest pet peeve about meetings is I value my time. I've learned to value my time. I don't have a lot of it. I don't necessarily like to just hang out in a meeting setting just to hang out. Yeah. Like I have things to do. And my main goal with work, no offense to my company or my job, because I love what I do, but it's not the most important thing in my life. And so like, if I can get my work done and have nothing hanging over my head, I want to go home at that point. Yeah. Where I get most frustrated with meetings is when my time is I feel like it's almost like disrespectful. Like my time is just used up in a manner that is not productive. And that time when I'm in that meeting, I now have to circle back and do everything that I should have been doing while I was in it. Yeah. And, what could be said and done in 15 minutes, typically in my experience, usually takes anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour. And for me, that is just like pull my hair out, frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not alone. So there was a study done by the University of North Carolina. They interviewed 182 senior managers. 65% of them said that they thought meetings were keeping them from doing their work. 71% that meetings were totally unproductive and inefficient. And 64% said that meetings come at the expense of actual deep thinking and productivity. And then Salesforce did a survey of actual employees, run-of-the-mill knowledge workers, and 46%, nearly half of them said that they waste significant time in meetings. So clearly this is one of those things that we keep doing, even though it's not good for us.
Yeah. It's like PowerPoint.
It's not good for productivity.
It's like PowerPoint presentation. So
let's get into why they stink, right? So most of the meetings aren't focused. There's never a structure. People come in, they chit chat, they sit down. Some dudes are eating, snacking, playing on their phone. There's got to be structure. The person running the meeting is almost always the wrong person to be running the meeting. There are people in my life like this, and I think, you called this meeting. Why am I the one talking right now? Right. Many times they invite everybody. Ask Timmy to come and sit in on this meeting. But Timmy's busy. He's got other things to do.
Right.
And then most of the time you walk away with nothing accomplished and no clear marching orders.
You've got to have a meeting about the meeting you just had. or oftentimes like
there's an email follow-up.
Yeah. Or you leave the meeting with more work. It's like, hey, we're going to go over these 3 things.
Yeah.
And out of these 3 things, I've discovered that you have 12 things that you have to go back and do. Like, wait, what? Like, no, that's not how this is supposed to work. Like we should be closing the page on this chapter and moving on to the next one, but it never seems to work that way.
Yeah. In our meetings, it's weird because being in a small company, I haven't been subjected to the sorts of meetings that a lot of people in more of a corporate environment are, familiar with. Yeah. Like, you'll have like your HR, maybe your sexual harassment meeting where they figure, let's just get everyone in here at once and, get this over within an hour, or your health benefits meeting. Same thing, large groups. Number one, I'm thinking it must be terrible to be that guy that goes in to do those large insurance like meetings, because you understand that you are taking an hour and a half away from someone that doesn't want to be there. And they might have to stay late as a result of you. And your chances are you're telling them that rates went up, even though nothing changed in their life. And, so I don't desire that role. But so for me, most of the time, the meeting structure is we have one once a week in my company. And it's more like a check-in call. But rarely does it ever come out of it where where someone's like, oh, I've got a lot of work, and we pass something off. It's more or less just saying, like, running down what your projects are, what you expect to get done. But at the same time, and maybe sometimes the boss might have an agenda. Maybe he thinks someone isn't doing enough. So that really feels like that's more the purpose of the meeting, is to try and call out one person with everyone present and do it subtly. I guess it's weird and it's awkward, and it is just a waste of time. You know what I'm working on? I submit a timesheet every week, so you see my hours. I'll tell you if I need work. That's really kind of how it goes.
I'm convinced that sometimes meetings run over because people just like to hear themselves talk. And then oftentimes, instead of it being like taking the emotion out of it and just talking about like business stuff, a lot of the times meetings run off the rails when we start talking. It turns into like a gripe session. Like, we're getting work. This is not the setting. This is not the forum. Like, there are specific places for maybe that sort of stuff. That's not the intention of this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to sit around and do like let's go around the table and everybody complain about everything they're upset about with their job and their life. No.
That's what dinner is for.
Yeah.
I think it also comes down to, a lot of it is who's delivering it, right? What the message is. When I was working at a larger firm, we had a similar, set of planning meeting once a week where we got together Monday morning, and the boss was he was an intimidating, mean person, And I remember my first day. It was a Monday morning. I go in, I sit down, I get called into this meeting. I have no clue what's going on. And he's running through stuff and he's talking to me like I should know what's happening. And then at one point, he just keeps hitting someone with the same question over and over again. He's not getting what he wants. And he sees my face and he looks over and he stops the meeting in front of everyone. He says, I need you to understand this. I have to be the dick so that you can be the good guy out there. And I'm okay with being the dick. And I'll assume that role so that your life can be a little bit easier. And I was like, all right, I kind of get that, but I still think there's a better approach here, maybe, than just repeating the same question over and over again and being a dick.
Ever.
I'm not going to lie. You always knew where you stood.
Yes.
And you always knew what was expected. It was a huge learning curve and adjustment for me. And it's why I only lasted 6 months there and I went back to my old company, because it was not for me.
I would thrive in that environment. That's the type of stuff I like, because I always have my stuff together. Like when I had my first job out of college, I remember when I finally made it in the management, I remember the first meeting I was at, I was in there on time. GM was like, shut the door. Whoever's not in here, not in the meeting. Whoa. And like people are like knocking on the door. He's like, meeting started 2 minutes ago, should have been here. And like just went about, like, I love that. I love that type of environment. I love that type of mentality. It is what it is, man. This isn't a job about your feelings. Like, you're here to perform. You're here to do a function. If you can't, I come there, like, I give you the tools to be successful. What do you do with them is up to you. Like, I love that approach, because the meeting is always going to be concise. It's always going to be to the point. People are going to come prepared, and what's supposed to take 20 minutes takes 20 minutes and you move on. That's the way you do it.
Yep. And that's our advice. So ask yourself if this meeting is necessary. Only invite people who should be there. Send materials ahead of time. Give people time to think. They shouldn't be thinking in that room. Have an agenda. Start on time. Keep it moving. Short, quick meeting and get out, and give orders, marching orders, right, as you're out the door. And then I'll throw one more in there. When I first started at the place I ended up spending most of my career, the boss said, whenever I call you into a meeting, just bring a notebook and a pen. And I still bring a notebook and a pen into almost every meeting I go to, regardless of the situation. Yeah. And you always it prepares you in a different way. It puts you in a mindset to sit down and work. Like, this is important. So even if it was just a morning catch-up meeting, I would bring that notebook and a pen just in case there was something that was good. It made it feel important.
Yeah.
So that's one way to approach it. And then the only other thing I'll say with the Zoom culture and doing online meetings, it's still important to have some self-respect, to clean up your background or blur out your background. Definitely make sure you brush your teeth and pull your hair up. It's okay to block the camera in certain situations, but it doesn't make the people on the other end feel very good. And it does take away from a little bit of the trust that is supposed to be a person-to-person conference call. So a couple of things there. Don't wear a hoodie if you're meeting with the president of your company.
Wink, wink.
And until next time, shields up.
Shields up.